Sorry I missed it.
Going over to YouTube now. Okay. Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's Robert Phoenix, and I'm here with Glenn Streeter, and just got to make sure we get the good gallery view going on here. It looks like you can see Glenn, and now you can see me and Glenn. All right. So, Glenn, usually what happens is, we wait for people to kind of congregate and mill into the chat room a little bit here. We got 2 people watching now. And let me just put a welcome Glenn Streeter text here, and I'm going to put your website also in the chat bar right now, so people can actually access your website while we're doing this video if they want to do that.
Perfect.
And it can help them in terms of questions about certain technologies or some of the supplements that you've got featured on your site and all that stuff. So let me get into the chat over on YouTube and drop your website in there. Hey, what's going on, FUP? How you doing? And there it is. I just put the link to Glenn's website, so you guys, as you get into the chat and get into the show, can go check it out. And we'll get going here in just a minute or two. Just want to make sure that we get enough people in the congregation. So how you doing out there, Glenn?
Never better, Robert.
And you're in Boulder, right? Boulder, Colorado?
El Dorado Canyon.
Very, very nice. Glenn has been on Gaia, now Gaia with Regina a couple of times. So we've got a Regina connection, and he's been all over the internet. He's done a lot of stuff with Cafe Namaste, which is pretty cool. And you've been on Jeff Rentz's program a couple of times, right, Glenn?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been on Coast to Coast with George at all, George Norrie?
We talked about it, but it never materialized. I think that at that time, the material was going towards a different angle.
On Coast to Coast?
Yeah.
Right. You'd be great. You'd be a great guest. So let's see who we have in there now. We've got Paulette. What's going on, Paulette? And let's see. There's Ben. Hey, Ben. Good to see you. There's Chiva. Here's Lisa Marie, all the way from California. There's Mary and Judy. Beautiful. Excellent. So we're starting to get a little critical mass happening over in the chat room. We got 22 people watching on the show now. Glenn is going to be, we're going to talk more about this later in the show, but Glenn's going to be a part of the gathering that we're going to have here in the Hill Country, specifically in Kerrville/Fredericksburg. And Glenn's going to be breaking out some of the technology that we're going to be looking at and talking about today. And we're going to have kind of a health angle as well with the event in October. Emily Moyer is going to be there, and Emily's got her whole stuff of sugar as programmable matter. So check this out, Glenn. I was watching this documentary last night on Rasputin, who's like kind of one of my weird sort of culture heroes in an odd way. That says a little bit maybe about me more than I'd like to share, but. So Rasputin, it was really interesting. They were talking about when Rasputin was being assassinated. And part of the rumor was that, he was poisoned and ate a kind of a fruit cake that was laced with cyanide. And there was a very interesting sort of series of kind of refutations about, this kind of myth and legend around his death. And there was this one woman who was a historian, and she said that it was impossible for Rasputin to eat that cake because he did not eat sugar. He didn't like sugar. And I thought to myself, well, that's really kind of interesting that Rasputin was kind of switched on to the whole sugar thing, in his own way. So
One of the early biohacks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Just avoid sugar.
Absolutely. So Emily will be there, and she'll talk about sugar. And Joan Sefcik, who is very, very dear and close to me, she'll be doing some stuff on biological dentistry and the spiritual relationship you have with your teeth. And it's going to be an Aries full moon. Aries rules the head. So it might be some really interesting information. There's going to be other stuff too. Of course, I'll be talking astrology. And my good friend Stephen Kent will be doing a didgeridoo concert on Sunday night, which is going to be on that harvest full moon. And then the Crimmies are going to be there. Chris is going to be teaching us dowsing. Steve will be interviewing Stephen Kent. We're going to have Tex-Mex food. We're going to have barbecue. It's going to be a total blast. We're going to take a field trip to Enchanted Rock and crawl around that thing and get into the harmonics of Enchanted Rock. And Glenn's going to be a part of it all. So I hope some of you, or as many of you, can make it as you possibly can. I'm working on expanding the invite on my website. That'll be up today. Let's just do a quick check-in with the chat room. We've got Colleen. Hello there. There's Marie. Hey, nice seeing you, Marie. So are we screwed if we no longer have our teeth? That's a good question. Glenn, what are your thoughts on that?
The loss of 3 or more teeth ends up in a significant reduction in the immune system.
Mm-hmm. So what do you suggest to a person who has lost 3 or more teeth or has no teeth at all? How can they help themselves out there?
Well, we do have patients with that situation. So swishing some silver water in their mouth daily after brushing can help dramatically. PEMF therapy on the jaw.
Right. Okay.
Things like that.
So I'm going to do a formal intro with Glenn here in a moment, because we're just kind of getting warmed up and people are just starting to, still fill in here. And I want people to get as much live material from Glenn as possible and not just sort of jump in midstream. But I will tell you this. Glenn sent me one of his PEMF machines last night. And I have a condition in my lower back called spondylosis. So there's a lot of crystallization that's going on with my discs. And it's kind of painful and very, very difficult to move at times. So I've been doing an inversion table. And so Glenn and I were talking about this. Glenn, so let me send you this machine. I got it 2 days ago, hooked it up last night, and I woke up today with no pain in my back. And that was just with 2 30-minute sessions on this PEMF machine. Glenn will explain more about it, but this is some of the stuff that he's into. And I can tell you right now, within that one application, 2 30-minute sessions, I woke up this morning and I was a different person, and it was really terrific. So let me just check in with the chat room here a little bit more. There's Chris and Steve. Hey, Chris and Steve. And there's Michael. Hey, Michael. There's Marcia. All right. Good. Good to see you, Ben. We need to connect, by the way. All right. Why don't we start here? Let me do a kind of a formal introduction, and I want to read your bio from MedFit. Pretty extensive, but I think it's worth reading. So if you want to, you can go to energymedfit.com. That's Glenn's website. I put the link into the chat so you can check it out as Glenn and I go through this portal of alternative and quantum health. So let me just read this. He's an exercise physiologist and energy medicine practitioner. He's been at this in this game for over 30 years. So let me give you the definition of energy medicine. Energy medicine research suggests that the human body is largely voltage regulated, not chemically regulated. Measuring these voltages can determine your present state of health, provide clear direction for improving upon it. In addition, manipulating the body's voltage can regenerate damaged tissue, internal organs, and numerous vital life systems. Glenn's got a degree in exercise physiology, emphasizing in sports medicine. He's been practicing with physiology and energy medicine for over 30 years. His clients include world champion and national caliber athletes from a variety of disciplines, as well as celebrities. An avid off-road motorcycle and mountain bike racer, Glenn knows the value of energy medicine and pulsed electromagnetic field PEMF therapy. In his holistic healing practice, Glenn employs a variety of PEMF devices and contributes to his knowledge to the alternative medicine community via syndicated radio programs and prominent news outlets and online subscription services, including Gaia Conscious Media, making, this is, if you can switch back, what is this? Somebody's sending me something live here, hold on. Oh, sorry, wrong thing. So I thought somebody sent me some direction here. My bad. Starseed Hotline and rents.com, making life brighter. We talked about Cafe Namaste. In addition to founding Energy MedFit and co-founding Vital Life Services, Glenn also serves on the executive board of Pulsed Harmonics, a Colorado-based PEMF device company offering state-of-the-art technology at an affordable price. He's originally from New England. He's lived and worked in Boulder for decades. We've already established he's a motorcyclist, avid outdoors person. He is pursuing the adventures of his youth to new heights in the Rocky Mountain region and carving out a career as an energy medicine practitioner, which began with an interest in Eastern medicine and athletics. He's climbed all 54 of the Northeastern state peaks that are 4,000 feet and above, as well as the New England 100 in summer and winter. As an All-American baseball catcher. He had 413 in 1986, tried out for the Pirates in the same year. 1991, Glenn served as the ultra-marathoner Dr. David Horton's support team, carrying a 90-pound backpack as one of the world's foremost runners. Broke the Appalachian Trail world speed record, historic events, featured in Sports Illustrated, Runner's World, and New York Times. So Glenn is an athlete. He's somebody who practices what he preaches. In this case, it's energy medicine, and the list goes on and on and on. There's photography. There's all kinds of stuff on his bio page, which I highly recommend that you check out. We're going to dive into other portions of his website today. Glenn, welcome.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah,
great to be with you.
Yeah, so that's a lot. It's a lot to start off on. Why don't we get? I love to find out about people and how they came to their passion and what they're doing in life. So let's explore that with you. Let's talk about the not necessarily the Reader's Digest version, but let's find out how you got here. You know, where did the interest in medicine and healing start, and how did it evolve to some of the really fascinating technologies you're working with today?
Well, you can get into it with some more depth if you go to my first Gaia interview. But I had a rough childhood, sick a lot, even though I came from healthy parents. And at 14, I made a decision that I just wanted to thrive like my peers. Mm-hmm. So I bought a juicer and started weight training with a former NFL player on my paper route and put on 40 pounds of muscle and got healthy. And next thing I know, I'm trying out for the Pirates. Mm-hmm. 1986.
Right.
Then I lost my interest in team sports and got really close to Dr. David Horton, who was my exercise physiology professor in college. And this guy was motivated and super bright, and asked me to be on the Appalachian Trail team with him. And we had a great time helping him break the record, which has since been shattered, of course, but that's life.
So you actually carried a 90-pound pack with this guy on this whole thing?
Well, he's the only one who did every mile of the trail. We would hike in, meet him, feed him, massage him, put him to bed, wake up. But we had to carry his stove, backpack, tent, sleeping bag. He only carried a small Camelback so that he could run faster. Mm-hmm. He's really the originator of the go light philosophy.
Mm-hmm. What is that?
Well, mountaineering has been popular probably the last 80 years or so in Europe and America, but it was all heavy wool and canvas and things like that. And as the material science has progressed, the gear has gotten significantly lighter, and Horton was really the first person to really take that to an extreme. I mean, he did the whole trail with running shoes.
Wow.
Everyone else had hiked it before then with heavy packs and walking sticks, and he didn't want any part of that. Mm-hmm. So, but somebody had to carry his survival gear.
So you were a Sherpa, one of the Sherpas.
Yeah, it was an honor.
Uh-huh. So did you actually run too, or were you just kind of jogging, walking? What kind of physical exertion did you have during that thing?
Probably about half of his mileage.
Mm-hmm.
But at times I did have to carry a heavy backpack for both of our equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And then other times I did get to run with him to help him pace and what have you. And I would be carrying a Camelback and going light at that time too. It was really an amazing trip. I'll never forget it.
Sounds great. Totally great. Some people are I have this theory that some people are kind of born awake, like they already have something somewhere in their gene pool or DNA, and it's very close to the surface, closer to the surface than other people. And other people may have that, but it may be buried deeper, and it may take a crisis or may take something rather significant for that to get triggered. And then there are other people where that trigger or that sort of gene code is in the Marianas Trench of their helix, right?
Well, as the Chinese have said, every great person has had one great tragedy.
Yeah. Do you think that you were born closer to being kind of awake, so that when you moved into the alternative material, it was really pretty easy for you?
Well, I've always had Carl Jung's angst, that was always been a part of my being. And I think that's what has driven me as an athlete, to just be able to blow through pain and misery and to achieve the goal, right? Nothing comes easy in this life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you've definitely taken an alternative route, right? Like some people would have said, okay, I want to be kind of a traditional doctor or, have some traditional role in medicine. But what you do obviously is linked to consciousness.
Well, I started on that path, but then I became increasingly disenchanted with Western medicine and its practices around chronic medicine.
Yeah, so that's what I'm interested in. How old were you, and sort of where did you switch tracks? How did that happen?
I think I was about 8, and I was pretty sick with pneumonia and bronchitis, and I had a doctor who stayed in the room with me all night to make sure that I didn't die.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's what I want to do.
Uh-huh.
That I remember that moment.
Mm-hmm. And he was a traditional doctor, but
Right.
Obviously doctors, in a good way, right? In a good sense, because doctors won't do that now. They won't hang out with you. You better have like a comfort pet or something, like a comfort goat. So you wanted to help people, and you wanted to be somebody that could be a healer, obviously. When did you sort of fork off and say, I want to be more of an untraditional healer? When did that happen?
Well, I started, after college, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I managed a number of physical therapy clinics, sports medicine clinics, gyms, GNC stores, and kind of did the whole gamut of the fitness profession.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I moved to Denver, I connected with a group of my prime mentor in my life in this category, a gentleman named Patrick Pine, who the group of us started the concept of medical fitness because we were disenchanted with the fact that medicine didn't care about movement and gyms didn't care about medicine. We saw this gigantic Grand Canyon in these diverse thought processes when medicine and fitness should be joined at the hip.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not enough to just be symptom free. We need to be optimized.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I wanted to pursue.
So it was kind of an awakening where you came to the limitations of the work, and there were a number of people around you that kind of verified and validated and said, let's go in a different direction. Is that right?
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. And was that pre-Boulder, before you moved to Boulder?
Well, that was in Denver. I've lived in the Denver Boulder area for about 25 years now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then you moved to Boulder and you said, okay, I'm gonna stake this claim and and get into this specific area and move my practice in this direction. About what time was that? What year in your life?
Probably 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, the technology and the products over the last 20 years have changed dramatically. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, Dr. Lisa Tully and I founded the Energy Medicine Research Institute about 20 years ago to study effects of cell phones and whether supplements had any efficacy or not, things like that. Mm-hmm. And she has an incredible network of all the best energy medicine people. And then what's called ICEAM used to meet in Boulder, It's the International Society for the Study of Energy Medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of the best minds in the world were coming here through Boulder, and I could even bicycle to the workshop. It was just a fantastic blessing to have that and not have to get on a plane and pursue all that.
So you're in the heart, you're in the heart of the universe there, right? When the stuff is happening.
It's pretty much ground zero in America for these technologies and supplements and entrepreneurs who are creating incredible foods and supplements. This is the place to be for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now the device you sent to me was this PEMF, which is a pulse generator, and it's connected to a pad that I put on my back.
Right.
I'm assuming that 20 years ago that technology did not exist, or if it did, it was in a very different form. Is that right?
I would say about 40 years ago, the Papimi was created by a Greek doctor using AC to create a spark that's basically a recreation of the Big Bang, the spark of life.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very expensive device, and it required a flatbed truck to move it.
Wow.
So then Michael Davis created the PEMF machines in America about 20 years ago that miniaturized that technology.
Mm-hmm.
And then since then, it's been a race to miniaturize and a race to go towards DC, which is actually more valuable than AC for the body.
Mm-hmm. Right. Interesting. Very interesting. More valuable than AC. Now, as an energy medicine practitioner, with all these developments, you've got to stay up on your game, and you've always got to find out where that edge is, right? I mean, how much of your work do you devote to research and trying to find these new products or these new kind of innovations? And because I know you're also a practitioner, I mean, you help people, right? How much do you devote to research and maintaining that edge that you've got to have in your gig?
Well, for a long time, I was about 4 hours a day on the internet doing research. But now, because of my network, I don't have to do that. I get phone calls when something is hip and hot.
Yeah.
Say, hey, check this out. For example, I just got a sample of a new water-soluble CBD that's going to change the world. And I tried it yesterday for the first time and found bliss for about 8 hours. It was magnificent.
So CBD is really, really interesting. It's become this revolutionary substance, medicinal, that 4 to 5 years ago was verboten. I mean, you could get CBD now at Walgreens, for crying out loud. I mean, it's amazing. It's a really, really amazing. I'm glad that it's proliferating, kind of this everyday use in our health. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, and maybe you could also talk about how not every CBD is created equal.
Well, it's interesting, of course, being here in Boulder. Some of my best friends are some of the largest growers and smugglers in the history of the world, and understanding the molecule.
Mm-hmm.
And even myself had an open mind towards these things. Even 6 or 7 years ago, I was laughing at CBD as completely not efficacious and weak. And, we had graduated from the smoking into the edibles,
mm-hmm.
like Simpson oil.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the newer products like Hummingbird, which is about 50-50 CBD, THC. And all of these were just continued improvements and refinements on the whole molecule, because it really isn't a high consciousness level to be baked all day and trying to function.
That's right. Yeah, I agree.
So, and the CBDs early on were fairly weak, but now we're at a point where they're definitely surpassing the THC as a daily driver.
Mm-hmm.
But we still need to remember that we need THC for breakthrough pain, cancer, and some of these other much more difficult inflammatory conditions.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have pilots and police officers and military people who are on straight CBD and doing really well with it, and they pass their tests, and they're not a danger to anyone.
Yeah. It's interesting. Do you have any insight into sports and where sports is with CBD? I know the Dallas Cowboys were doing some stuff with testing a couple of years ago.
Well, I know that the NFL is really pushing hard to not make it illegal to test hot for THC and or CBD.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a very positive move, because these guys are really beat up even at 30.
Yeah.
And all these micro traumas to the head, you don't even have to have the big one. You can end up with severe dementia, Alzheimer's symptoms, traumatic brain injury, even from 5,000 repeated blows that are tiny, right?
Yeah.
So they need all the anti-inflammatory that they can get. Plus, as a being, we produce 250 quadrillion free radicals every day. And if you're an athlete, you probably double that. I mean, think about those numbers.
That's huge, man.
So we really need to be thinking about antioxidation as our primary anti-aging and feel-good solution.
Yeah.
You have a package.
Thank you.
You got a care package. Huh? You going to share it with us?
It's like Christmas here all the time, Robert. It's fantastic. Every day I come home, I find a new supplement or a new device. Hey, try this out, Streeter.
I love it. That's awesome.
Great.
That's totally awesome. Every day is Christmas. So I wanted to kind of build on what you just shared about free radicals and the health threat to athletes. What are some of the basic and what are some of the health threats that people face that they may not be aware of, that they should be aware of?
Well, part of the original thought process behind energy medicine is this understanding that there's not a silver bullet. Western medicine loves to have one diagnosis and one pill and fix the problem, and that's completely mathematically absurd because we're in a multi-vector scenario right now. We call it the toxicity matrix. We probably have 10 or 20 times more vectors than our great-grandparents did. You know, for example, they had food. We have shit food and organic food.
Right.
And everything in between, right?
Yeah.
It's basically creations in the material world based upon people's ability to pay. So this is why we have 15 different levels of food, for example, food quality.
Right. Interesting. Right. You know, I was watching a piece of film that Paul Joseph Watson had posted on YouTube, and it was I think it was a scene from New York or Chicago. It was probably around the late 20s. It was around the late 20s or early 30s. And the one thing that really struck me about that piece of film is that nobody was overweight. Nobody was overweight. Everybody was pretty much thin, height weight proportionate. And now you take a tour of a downtown area or a mall or a modern restaurant, and holy smokes, you know, it's like it's just a completely different reality.
Well, we've gone from quality to quantity in just about everything, unfortunately. And I think we need to get back to quality. And this is quality medicine. Yeah,
absolutely. So, okay, we've got food. That's a factor that's going to impinge upon our health. What else? What else is out there that we need to be aware of?
Probably the biggest one is the EMFs. Because we can't see them and feel them, we don't think that they're there. But, you know, 5G could be an extinction level event, for example. We're still looking into that, but the data is not good. Then you look at smart meters, you look at cell phone exposure, laptop exposure, blue light exposure from the screens. We're inundated with things that make us less human and drain our voltage.
Okay, drain our voltage. That's right. A really important piece, right? Because
that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Okay,
well, why don't we transition from that into energy medicine? How do we get some of our voltage back? How do we begin to kind of amp up again?
Well, there are a ton of free biohacks that you can look up on YouTube, but I can tell you some of them now. I'm really blessed to have a brain trust, and when we sit around the table, we try to come up with what we call biological imperatives. And one of them is pure sunlight. And some of my colleagues think it's actually more important than food. So sunlight exposure, pure water, PEMF, CBD, and we can even get PEMF from walking around barefoot. Time in water, time in the mountains, time in nature. The pine tree is amazing regenerative structure for us. We have a resonance with it.
The pine tree specifically.
Yeah, I mean, think about how robust this thing is. It can withstand minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit and 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And you know, it's
the green all year round, right?
Right.
Yeah,
and they're an antenna, according to some of the more woo-woo thinkers out there, that they take in energy and they give off frequencies. And so when we're around them, we feel more human, more connected, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and isn't there like some kind of Fibonacci sequence inside the pine cone too?
Yeah, there's sacred geometry there for sure, which is another big part of the energy medicine piece.
So how would you suggest or advocate that people interact with a pine tree?
Well, just meditating near them or hiking past them or mountain biking past, just being there,
Mm-hmm. Right. So it sounds to me like what you're advocating for people is to get out into nature, have a reset, kind of reconnect with the biomagnetics of the planets, which are probably in a different polarity than the EMF and the pulse energy stuff.
It's so
pulse energy
so
stuff,
funny
right?
how these things happen. I don't know if you've read the article, but insurance companies are now reimbursing doctors for prescribing outdoor time. Like
Really?
honest to God, you can look it up. Like it's some kind of revelation. I mean, the Western science mind has just lost the plot. I mean, why is that such a breakthrough? I'm
Yeah.
glad they're doing it, but my parents knew this 50 years ago.
Right.
My dad took me out of the backpack and said, "You're going to hike the mountain. You're not going
Right.
to not going to be a snowflake."
Right.
Turn the technology off and fall in love with the outdoors.
Right. We've gone so far in the other direction.
And use the technology like you would a raincoat. You don't wear a raincoat all the time. You only need it when it's raining. So use the technology as a tool and then put it back in the toolbox and go play.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because this kind of dovetails with something that I saw during the second Democratic debate, which was Marianne Williamson, who I think is a whack job. I think she's a whack job. I've never been a fan, but she did say something that I thought was important, and it did resonate. And the thing that was really interesting about it is that there were people who heard what she said, and it was like this aha moment. They were hungry, and she was the only person that talked. They were all talking about universal health care and this and that, but she was the only person that was actually really addressing the quality of the care, number one. And number two, what was going into our food and what was going into our environment. Now, there may be other things that may disqualify her, but there were people that really grabbed onto that. And I think for me, that was the best moment really of that debate. And yet it's something that most of us who have been around health all these years just know. We know inside and out. And I just wanted to know if you wanted to speak to that and, give your insight around how people, are really hungry for just getting back to the basics.
Well, there's definitely a huge revolution going on. You can see it here in Boulder for sure. I mean, but we've been at the tip of that spear for a long time in terms of movement in the mountains and athletes pushing the boundaries. But in a more general sense, it's an obvious frustration with the lack of results from chronic disease care from Western medicine. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You don't call your electrician to fix your plumbing problem.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. And now the tech companies are getting so Stasi-like, where they're making an all-out and united effort to turn the volume down on alternative health.
Absolutely, because it's such a threat to their hegemony.
Yeah.
Their AI hegemony, I should add, because they are just a giant AI that every decision they make is not in the interest of freedom-loving people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a sad truth.
Yeah, one could almost make kind of this leap in going back to the origins of the AMA, where they were very invested in this new kind of mechanical, industrial, medical technology. That was sort of the beginnings in some ways of AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they were going to have this kind of man-machine interface, because before that it was all pretty much, homeopathic or naturopathic. And the AMA was a lobby. They were a lobby group for this kind of new industrialized medicine that was being propagated right at the turn of the century and the industrialization of just about everything.
Mm. Well, they have this idea that the more complicated, the better, and also reductionist scientific thinking, which of course has brought us some miracles. But if I can take a pill that has every nutrient that I need, as opposed to 300 pills that all have those nutrients separately, which one makes more sense?
Yeah. Which one's going to make more money, though? Unfortunately.
That's the bottom line.
Unless they make that one pill $300, which they do, by the way. They've got their $300 pills. But
some chemo is 20, 30,000 a month.
That's right.
You have to be out of your mind.
Yeah.
Look at their track record statistically. It's a disaster.
Yeah. Let's talk about cancer for a second. What's your inside track on cancer? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think that Simoncini from Italy did some brilliant work on showing that it's a fungus, but I don't think it's limited to a fungus because of the concept of pleomorphism. Mm-hmm. So that these bugs can change their form. Because what's every entity's main purpose? It's to survive, number one, and to reproduce, number two. Mm-hmm. And it's no different with the infectious agents.
So you think cancer is a shape-shifting kind of entity?
They all can be. Uh-huh. So it's important to know that, because if you're targeting a chemo for one particular type of fungus, but it actually has become another form of infection, now you're pissing in the wind.
Interesting.
And you're damaging yourself for no obvious reason. Mm-hmm. So if you look at silver, nano silver colloids and ionics, and like we have on the website, these are much more effective as an anti-pathogen than anything that's offered through the guys in white lab coats.
Right. Yeah. War on cancer, man. Billions of dollars later, we're still fighting. It's nuts.
They don't want to find a cure.
No, they don't want to find a cure. It's too profitable. Let's talk about this technology that you introduced me to, which I thought was kind of mind-blowing, which is the new vision stuff. And so what Glenn did is he did an assessment of my health across kind of a number of different sort of platforms, and did it all remotely. He's in Colorado, I'm here in Texas, and this thing was so freaking accurate. So Glenn, you want to break down New Vision and maybe how it works and sort of what the science is behind it?
Yeah, it's going to sound a little crazy to the scientists out there, but I pushed it away for a few years too, and tried to trick it before I adopted it as such a breakthrough. So someone from a prominent military industrial complex group left and wanted to do something benevolent for humanity. So using holographic and machine learning, it's not technically AI, but we can call it that for ease of purpose, is able to read the body with 95% accuracy, regardless of where it is. Mm-hmm. So if you think about the moment we come out of the birth canal, we become like the Play-Doh that comes out of the Play-Doh fun factory. We go from potentiality to becoming extant. Right now we're here. Mm-hmm. If you can triangulate on that moment, you can triangulate on that person, no matter where they are, and their hologram. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the device throws 130,000 items at that particular hologram, and whatever's relevant shows up, and whatever's not falls away. We don't discuss it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if we can narrow down people's health vector problems to maybe 30 or 40 issues, and then maybe 10 or 20 action plan activities or devices or supplements that can move them towards a higher voltage place, then we can get massive changes. I could sit here for the next 5 hours and tell you the testimonials.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the show page. If you want to see how this works, Glenn did a session with a fellow on another channel called Cafe Namaste, and he was just hitting it out of the park with some of the stuff. And there was this one thing that came up with something around heartworm and the dog. Do you remember that that piece? You want to tell people like what you saw and then how he was able to go back in time and actually match an event that happened with something that came up with the New Vision?
Well, if I'm recalling, it was a long time ago, but I think that's Scott Helton with Cafe Namaste, and the device picked up that his dog had that condition.
Right.
So we were able to give it our silver water and take care of the problem in him.
Right. That's how specific this thing was. And he actually validates that inside of the video. He says, yeah, and in fact, I got the medicine on my hands and the whole 9 yards, right?
Right.
So that's how specific this thing is. You can see it get played out in the video. Did it with me and nailed stuff with me that was spot on. Like a long time ago, I had a QXCI reading, and it came out that I had some form of Japanese encephalitis through a spider bite. And the New Vision stuff picked up on the same thing, right? This was years later. It's really, really fascinating. And then, of course, it's not just the conditions that this thing picks up on a physical level, but there's also like the psychological woo stuff too, which I thought was really, really interesting.
Another great story, Robert, is we had a Vietnam veteran who was a farmer in the Midwest and sitting in the corner with his arms folded and said, "I can't believe I'm paying for this hippie woo-woo stuff." And his wife says, "Be quiet. Listen to the scan." So it came up, loud explosion, loss of digits. So he unfolded his arms and he said, "I had a hand grenade go off in my hand in Vietnam and I lost 2 fingers." He said, "I apologize. I will shut up and listen to your machine."
Wow. There you go. That's when you sit up and listen, right? When that happens.
You can't make that stuff up.
Yeah. Yeah. And even the psychological kind of woo stuff, which is not, it's more kind of emotional, psychic, that stuff comes up too. And I thought that was like, really spot on. And, of course, most of it was very complimentary. So it really helped. No, I'm just kidding. But that can you talk about that too? Because that's not medical. Where does that come from?
Well, again, it's resonance. So, I mean, think about what it sounds like when 2 people are singing in harmony. We can do the same thing with words. So it doesn't matter what the word is, whether it's a staph infection or whether it's I fell off the swing set when I was 8 years old. So that's where we can get the astrological and emotional piece to plug in. Good story around that. We had a woman who basically broke down crying on the other end of the phone because of childhood trauma, head trauma. And she recalled that she fell off a swing set at 8 or 10 and it just ruined her life. Mm-hmm. Headaches, couldn't sleep. No one knew what was wrong. The kids laughed at her when it happened. So there's this embarrassment component around the whole thing. It's a really deep dive into people's lives. It's a real blessing to be able to share with people like that and to help them overcome that stuff, whether it's emotional trauma or lead poisoning or Lyme,
Mm-hmm. Right. So curiosity, since it seems to be fairly topical in the news now, has anybody ever come up with Ebola in any of your scans yet?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Probably 20%.
Wow.
Mostly people who travel a lot.
Okay. What do you suggest, or what's the course of action there?
Well, remember, we don't diagnose, treat, or cure any disease or condition. Just want to put that out there.
Right.
The silver water has been shown to be effective against every pathogen known to man. So that's a no-brainer as a place to begin. But back to the pine tree just for one moment. It's the sap of the pine tree that makes it so special. And so if you can actually use turpentine in a medicinal fashion.
Right.
Her name is Dr. Jennifer Daniels, if you want to pursue that.
Yes, I had her on my show a long time ago. She's fantastic.
Oh, she's a firebrand.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
She raised her middle finger to Western medicine, and I applaud her.
Yeah, walked away. I guess she still lives in Panama, right?
Panama or Costa Rica.
Yeah, yeah.
But she's had miracles with the turpentine for $40 a year.
Yeah. What brand of turpentine do you recommend? Because you talked about that.
There's only one that's safe, and that's DiamondGForestProducts.com. His name is Chip. He's a wonderful guy. He really loves the pine tree. He approaches it like Dr. Yamagi and the bonsai tree. He's that detailed about it.
Right.
This stuff is so pure. It's triple distilled. It's very, very safe when it's done properly. But do not take it without watching her. So follow her protocols? Yes.
Okay. Dr. Jennifer Daniels.
And just so you know, Nanoxide, our product, is way more elegant. It tastes like water, and you don't go through all of the burping and all that you're going to go through with turpentine. But if resources are an issue and you want to do that route, it's a safe way to go.
Okay. Well, let's step people through the process. They come to you. Probably you're going to get them on the New Vision, so you can get an assessment as to what's going on.
Right. So if they're local, we can get them to our office at goldenbiohack.com, where we have about $300,000 worth of the world's best energy medicine equipment. So at the office, we would take them through what's called heart rate variability, which is a very important test for the human nervous system. It's actually the gold standard. So through that test, we can determine thyroid and adrenal function, as well as someone's overall voltage, and see heart attack risk. And then we can also monitor their progress. So HRV is the telescope. That's what we call lawn chairs on the moon. That's the big picture for people, right? But the new vision is the microscope. And that can be done over the telephone. So people watching, they don't have to come here for us to get that done.
Right. So when you did this for me, there were a number of your products that you would recommend. So you would then basically say, hey, look, if you want to check this out, this might help. And then you can actually target some of these things inside of the new vision and then offer supplements or some sort of nutritional kind of add-on, right, for that. Because some of this wasn't just a supplement. Like one of the things is like, well, you need to eat more beets. Well, that's really simple, right? More broccoli, have more beets. This is just for me. Pineapple's really good. Papaya. So that stuff that's right there. You don't have to go to Glenn to get that. But then at a higher level, you were also saying, hey, you may want to check this out. You want to check this out. So one of the things that I wanted to do, and we talked about this earlier, that you would bring some of this stuff out and actually kind of show us a few of the things that you work with, and maybe some of the supplements or that you actually advise people to check out. So you want to break some of this stuff out?
Sure. So on New Vision, 100% that we see people have infections in their body. It's that simple. It could be 5, it could be 500. So in order to combat the infections, the most elegant way to do that is some type of silver nano product. We have 2 on the website. One is called Nanoxide. That's the Bentley. And we have the Dodge pickup truck, which is Silver Mountain Solutions, made here in Colorado by a veteran with a lot of care. The silver molecule is magic, and our ancestors knew this. They used to put it in milk. They used to put it in water to keep those things fresh for a long, long time, right? But then Big Pharma came along and put the kibosh on the silver molecule as an antibiotic, right? That's actually not true. It's an antipathogen. Antibio means against life. So once we can get the infection squared away, it's very important that we take a look at heavy metals, because everyone has heavy metal poisoning too, whether it's nickel, cadmium, lead, mercury, radioactives, strontium, barium, etc. All those things show up consistently for people. And many of them can take years to detox from the bone or the liver or the brain. It's something that we need to get on. And the new thinking in supplementation isn't just about adding things. We need to think about 50% of the time removing what doesn't belong there. So it's a whole new thought process around supplementation and actually doing these things prophylactically. People in their 20s are showing up with metal poisoning, for example. So it's not just for old people anymore. It's part of this toxicity matrix, right? So the best way to deal with the heavy metals is an EDTA supplement on the website. It's a suppository. If someone doesn't want to deal with the suppository route, because I understand the unpleasantness of the concept, we do have a sublingual as well, EDTA, which was created by the Germans in the 1930s, by the way. It saved tens of millions of people from having open heart surgery. So it's not just for metals removal, it's also for inorganic calcium. And if you think about what the aging process is, it's actually a calcification process. Think of the malleability of an infant versus a 90-year-old, right? Their tissues, right? So anytime we can move the tissue back to brand new rubber band status, if you will, or a brand new tire, something that's can bend like the willow. The EDTA helps dramatically with that, even for people with no symptoms.
So is this what Tom Brady and Alex Rodriguez, whatever that guy's name is, is this what they're into, for the flexibility and some of this life and biohack stuff?
I'm not sure about their relationship to EDTA, but I know that Tom has an amazing clinic at Foxborough Stadium that's now open to the public. They're basically releasing these technologies that have only been available for world-class athletes now to the general public.
Right. And he's 42 years old, and it looks like he's going backwards in time. It's fascinating to watch him.
He's a tremendous athlete. And he's got discipline too. You don't make it to 42 in the NFL without extreme discipline.
It's the mindset, right? It's the mindset. And one of the things that I was really, kind of crashed on my shore over the last couple months is this notion of discipline and how, as a culture, we've just become totally lax, totally slack. Everything's become so easy for us. We've got 3 or 4 different services that'll bring any kind of food to our home at any time we want. And it's something that we've really lost touch with. Can you just talk a little bit about that and how being disciplined with your health is really the first step to building more discipline in your life?
Well, it's all about trajectories and habits, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to see myself standing on top of the podium and popping the champagne after a motorcycle race, which happened last year, at 51, you have to backwards plan. And how are you going to get there? So that means Wednesday, when I don't feel like it, I'm going to yoga, or I'm going to the gym, or I'm going to go climb the mountain.
Right.
We have all these millions of little choice points during the day. Like, I could roll over and take a nap. And you know what? Sometimes that's the best choice point, especially if I just worked out hard yesterday.
Yeah.
But if that's my only choice point for the next 5 years, then I'm doomed.
Right.
And if you're not willing to cook your own food these days, you're in big trouble.
Yeah.
Because you can't trust restaurants for quality food. They could even tell you it's organic, and it probably isn't.
Right.
Who knows what diseases the people preparing your food have, because they're not supposed to be here.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Plus, it's expensive.
Yeah.
So, those little choices, like here's an example. I want to do a video. I've done it on audio, but how to eat for people who are single, right?
Mm-hmm.
On a low budget. How do you eat quality? There's so many great juices and things now that are organic that you can go into Whole Foods or any local high quality market and get fresh organic beet juice, celery juice, fresh fruit and vegetables. These are concentrated sunlight. These are what give us life. This is voltage in a bottle, as opposed to a Big Mac, for example.
Right. Right.
So making those choices, even if you do it 30% better than you did last week, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Get to bed on time, buy a face mask, turn off the Wi-Fi. Just your health should be your number one priority, not your bank account, not your McMansion, not your McCar.
Right.
Right. It should be everything. And then everything else falls into place. I just find it ironic when 70-year-old billionaires contact me to help them get well when they gave up health for 30 years so they could get rich.
Right. Well, they made a sacrifice, right? They sacrificed.
Right. The trick is, though, when you're in the flow, you don't have to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
You can be abundant and still have time off and time to recover and time to find some balance.
Right. Yeah, I'd agree with that. For me, I've worked out, been athletic off and on for a lot of my life. Was a big runner in my 20s and did martial arts and stuff. So I've been active, but there was a period the last few years that I was more inactive than I was active, and it really began to catch up with me. And I began to see some really troubling signs with my health, with high blood pressure and some other stuff. And I decided, back in last year, I started to work out, and then in January I stopped drinking, and the results and the benefits have been tremendous, really, really tremendous. And it was just a basic desire just to get better and to get healthier. And then, now I'm having conversations with Glenn. I'm starting to check out this other stuff. It's really interesting, maybe take things to the next level. But it just really starts with a basic, fundamental, foundational baseline. What about some of those touch points or some of those decision points where, you're going to roll over and take that nap? What would you tell people to get through that moment and take maybe the more difficult path? What's the key to that?
I think it's probably having a goal that's bigger than yourself. And it doesn't have to be an athlete. It could be, I want to play the violin, but I have an arthritic neck or arthritic fingers and I can't do that. So how do I fix that? Right. So if you have an end goal that's bigger than you, you're always backwards planning to accomplish that. Like when we did the Appalachian Trail, I was running, 15 miles a day to prepare for it because that's what needs to be done.
Right.
You can't just show up.
No.
So, so making those decisions, consistently and having something bigger, like let's say it's traveling, I know a whole bunch of rich older folks who would love to be on a boat, but they're not healthy enough to run the boat. So if it's just to spend time with people you love and not be limited by your ability to move, who wants to go to Europe on a trip and not be able to walk around and see things, climb a mountain maybe, or
Right.
so something bigger than ourselves.
Right. So having something that is slightly goal oriented, but you can relate to it on an emotional level that you want to bring into your life.
Right. And not letting the workout be the end into itself. I think this is kind of where CrossFit and some of these things have lost the plot, right? Now they have competitions at CrossFit, like who can be the best CrossFit person.
What's up with CrossFit, man? CrossFit's almost like a cult in some ways.
Yeah. I mean, everything seems to become a cult in this society now, right? Yoga's a cult in Boulder now. It's kind of sad. It's people who fell in love with movement, God bless them. And frankly, my peers and I were doing CrossFit movements 35 years ago. I mean, they are excellent movements, but when you turn it into a competition rather than an adjunct or a means to an end, like, hey, I want to become a better golfer, or I want to race motorcycles without pain, then it's worthwhile. That's the bigger goal. And, if you want to win a CrossFit competition, God bless you. You're moving, you're not lazy. But this whole kind of regimented movement kind of thing really doesn't sit well with me, because I've been in the gym since I was 14 consistently, and rather be outside, frankly.
Yeah. I hear you.
Playing and sports, when you can combine them, that's a lot more fun. But I still do go to the gym because that's my due diligence. You have to have dinner before you get to chocolate sundae, right?
In America, apparently that's the way it works.
Well, the snowflake mentality definitely gives the reward before the output, right? Everyone gets a trophy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're in Texas. That's a whole different scene, let me tell you, man. Whole different scene. I wanted to ask you about some of these technologies you've got on your technology page. Holy hydrogen. What the heck is that?
So you can take hydrogen as a supplement, as a pill, which is fantastic. We have that on the website. It's called H2 Elite. But that's gets expensive because you have to continue to buy it. But if you buy the machine, which is a lifetime device, now you have even more potent hydrogen mixed with magnesium that you can drink that stays viable for about 12 hours. So remember I talked about the 250 quadrillion oxidants?
Right.
Free radicals.
Yep.
This is how you buffer them. And we know from the science now that hydrogen and carbon are the two best ways to do that, carbon 60. So you can literally double the potency of both of those when you do hydrogen and carbon together. So a perfect scenario might look like having the holy hydrogen on the counter and just filling up your water bottle with that every day. There's been anti-cancer scenarios with these technologies, anti-arthritis, leaky gut syndrome, digestion problems, just from drinking a simple infused water.
Cool. Great. So you have two ways you can get at this. There's the machine on your website, and there's a supplement that you also offer as well.
Right.
All right. We talked about New Vision. What about this NanoV? What's that all about?
Oh, NanoV is so cool. This is a German technology that you sniff in 1260 nanometer infused water that actually creates stem cell proliferation in the body, but also protein folding.
Wow.
So we're really working at the DNA, RNA level, but just by simply inhaling this frequency.
Wow.
Amazing for recovery, for working out, and also a lot of the disease states we've been talking about.
The Germans seem to be at the cutting edge of a lot of this stuff.
They've been at the cutting edge of everything since they're, hundreds of years.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Look at
They
their
get a bad
cars.
rap, but man, they've pushed a lot of technology and product and social evolution, and cannot be denied.
They've been on the tip of the spear for energy medicine for sure.
Yeah.
And the Russians and certain American scientists.
What about the Avasia? What the heck is that?
I have one right here. So Avasia is basically a handheld PEMF device. So you put the electrodes on the body, and you can actually treat tendonitis, pain, acupuncture points, acute injuries, GI distress, headaches, what have you. This is basically what the Russians use in space.
That's a cold laser. Is that what that is?
No, this is this is a miniaturized PEMF for
Miniaturized PEMF. Okay.
for lack of a. We could discuss that for the nuances of that for a long time, but you know, those are $600 to begin with. Everyone should have one if they're concerned about self-reliance in medicine.
Right. Right. What about the QE75? What is that?
I have its big brother right here. This is cold laser therapy. So if you think of PEMF as low frequency, this is high frequency healing. So thyroid problems, sinus infection, sore throat, neck pain, ear infection,
right?
Acute injuries. Nice tool to have. Also incredible. We've healed someone with gangrene with this.
Right.
Wounds, MRSA, skin conditions, post-surgery, pain relief.
Wow. Jack of all
Tremendous
trades
tool.
there. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. All right. These are great. Now, the pulsed harmonics and the PEMF, which is what you shipped out to me and I used last night. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
So this is the one that I sent you. This is the Pulsed Harmonics A2000 that we make right here in Boulder. And this is the first time that a clinical potency device has been available to the public at home prices. So it's about 1600 Gauss, which is a measurement of horsepower for PEMF devices. And you've already experienced its pain relieving qualities.
Absolutely.
We've regenerated a broken bone in 9 days with this machine. You can read about that on the website, on the Pulsed Harmonics website. She's the world's best female off-road triathlete.
Yeah.
And she thought that she was going to miss the world championships because of her broken hand. And she went and won.
Wow.
After 9 days.
Wow.
We've healed gangrene with that machine as well. We've kept a number of people from having hip replacement, knee replacement. Some of my colleagues have regenerated a liver in 8 days using PEMF and stem cell therapies. So we're there. If you have the resources, you can plug in and you can get great results. There's no more jerking around.
This is like the cool Atlantean technology, right?
Absolutely.
That we can use to support ourselves and to boost our health. And this is the stuff that we're supposed to take from that experience and make our world right, versus the negative and the destructive versions of that technology, which I think are 5G and a lot of the other stuff that's been imported. So this is kind of an antidote to
Absolutely.
that negative technology.
Well, the Archons have gotten control of most of the technology, but not all of it.
Right.
So I call this anti-archontic technology.
Yeah.
Which could also be anarchic.
Yeah. It feels like it.
But anarchy doesn't mean chaos. Anarchy means without archons. Let's not forget that.
Yeah. Without archons. The archon-free diet. That's going to be the new fad.
I want to make a T-shirt, Archon-free zone.
Archon-free zone. Yeah. Hey, let me check in with the chat room and see what people. Let's take their pulse in there, see what they're thinking about, what we're talking about. See if there's any questions that they may have. Give me one sec here. Let me close a few of these windows. There we go. Let's see, what do we have here? Your health is your wealth, and your prize. Proteolytic saved me. What can you say about proteolytic or proteolytic?
Proteolytic enzymes are a very powerful way to shift the gut, for sure. We just want to make sure that we probably do the new vision first, so we figure out which ones, because we don't want to be taking the wrong enzymes and making everything cattywampus in the gut. Very, very important to have that garden be the right pH and the right fertilizers, etc.
So what I want to do is, people are asking about links. So let me I'm going to put a link in here in the chat room so you guys can eyeball some of these machines, these friendly machines that Glenn is talking about here. So I'm going to put that in the chat. And then Glenn, why don't we shift to some of your supplements page and talk about some of these supplements which look really, really interesting. Give me one second here. Let me fire this up. Okay, so you start off with a kind of looks like a pretty basic, like powder supplement called Immuregin. Is that how you say it?
Imuregen.
Immuregin. All right.
Yep.
What should we know about this stuff?
Well, this is an amazing story. I do have some right here. 1952, it was created in Czechoslovakia. It's basically an enzymatic formula that is actually grown kind of like kombucha.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes in and works at the DNA level. And it's turned around cancer, Down syndrome, autism, all kinds of things.
Wow.
But we're having a hard time getting it. So
why is that?
It's a complicated story, but it has to go from Czechoslovakia to the Philippines and then to America and then shipped out to each individual client. So they're expecting us to spend half the price of the product on shipping. So we're working through all that.
Does somebody in the Philippines have the exclusive rights or something, or what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We've tried hard to get it directly from Czechoslovakia, but we're still working on that.
Right. Can you hack it and do your own version of it?
It takes 3 months to grow it. It's definitely a pretty
so it's a growth. Okay.
Proprietary process. I'm sure
right.
I'm sure that some of my guys could reverse engineer it, but
yeah. So Immuregin, that's on his website. What about Origo?
Origo is a really cool serotonin dopamine modulator. So for those of you with fatigue or mood problems, trying to get off of meds, this is an excellent way to make the gut happy, because remember, the gut is the second brain. All the chemicals that go to the brain have to be digested through the stomach. That's why we take pills, right? So the Origo bypasses all that because it's sublingual. And it's a modulator. So if serotonin needs to go up, it will go up. If it needs to be brought down, it'll be brought down. And
how does that work? How does that figure that out?
well, it's working at the Krebs cycle level, if everyone knows what that is. That's the basic of biology. Through a molecule that just is proprietary that can do that.
Interesting.
It's crazy, crazy
it is
stuff.
Totally crazy. Yeah. So if somebody is depressed, maybe a bit manic, maybe this of course you're not a doctor, but this might actually be effective in sort of addressing some of that stuff.
Yeah, I would say that it's as important as CBD to modulate all of that.
Okay. So this is good for libido too.
We're getting some stories.
All right. Nano oxide. So
Okay.
this is gets into the blood plasma. What does it do?
Nanoxide is a 30, 40-year-old product that was created by the Germans as well, but it was never finished. And their chief scientist came over here and shared it with my mentor. And they finally perfected it. And it's a tiny, tiny silver molecule with oxygen attached to it. So not only are you getting the benefits of silver, but oxygen. And we know that cancer and all disease states are anaerobic. So no pathogen can exist in the presence of this product. Pathogens being infectious agents, right?
Okay. Is this a pretty affordable sort of addition to somebody's health regime?
It's $150 a liter, but it's a lot cheaper than chemo.
Right.
A lot more effective.
Now you swear by the carbon stuff, which is your C60, is that right?
Well, carbon is my creation. My friend Ben Wright and I were bottling some carbon 60 and had this revelation. Why don't we quit mixing it with coconut and avocado and mix it with medicinal CBD? And
Smart.
In a month, it got my mother off of her walker. We've had people get off of pain meds, psych meds, drug addictions, arthritic pain, leaky gut syndrome. It's the most anti-inflammatory product that we've tested in the laboratory.
And that's something that you put together with one of your partners.
Right. That's my creation.
Cool. Somebody just popped in a couple of questions here. First one is, what are your thoughts on the ketogenic diet?
Well, there's no question from a Krebs cycle standpoint, biologically, that when you're in ketosis, you're in a much healthier state in terms of not attracting disease states because it's because of what it does at the Krebs cycle level. However, when we eat all that meat and all that heavy protein, it slows down transit times, and most Americans can't afford that.
Mm-hmm.
So my take on it is it's probably best to get as keto as we can while still getting our fresh fruits and vegetables, and then get the rest of the way on keto through the powders.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the powders would be?
You like Ben Greenfield has, people like that. Mercola has one.
Okay, like a keto powder. Is that's what it's called, or?
Yeah, it's basically designed to put your body into this state.
Okay, so it helps you get there.
Right, without having to eat all the hamburgers and.
Right, so it's a booster. Yeah. Booster. Somebody asked about adaptogens. What are your thoughts on the adaptogens? Ashwagandha.
They're all fantastic. Here's the challenge: is I'm overwhelmed with some of the best nutraceuticals and things. So we've neglected some of the homeopathics and herbs that we're going to be looking into here. Because there's not an herb on the planet that's as powerful as cannacarbon, for example, as an anti-inflammatory. So why go backwards?
Right.
Unless you can't afford it, or unless that's your bent, that's okay.
What about this Astridian? What's that all about?
Oh, Astridian is really cool. It's topical. That is a copper, magnesium, and zinc component that's actually more absorbable than if it was injected.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a pH of 32.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd think that it would burn the heck out of the body, but it doesn't. It's because of its ionic nature and absorbability. It takes pain away almost instantly. We've cured MRSA with this topically.
Right.
Cuts, wounds, burns. We've watched moles fall off in days with Astridian. And now they have a new CBD product, which is the number 22. That's really fantastic for pain relief. And anytime we can add, if you think of what we're trying to accomplish here, we need raw materials to build a building, but we need a labor force.
Mm-hmm.
So the energy devices are the labor force, and the supplements are the raw material.
That's a great analogy.
Like we talked about for you, to put the Astridian on your back before you do the machine.
Right.
So now you're compounding things in a positive way rather than just hitting things alone.
Right, which I did last night. It was freaking amazing. And when I put that stuff on my back, I could feel it instantly. And this is pre-PEMF. Right.
Right.
Like, whoa, what did I just put on this spot? It was very powerful, really powerful. One of the things that you recommended during the New Visions camp was something called Quinton. What is that?
So Quinton is a 100-year-old product that was created in France as a replacement for blood plasma. And it was actually used in World War I when the French ran out of blood for their soldiers. You could just mainline it right into the vein. It's got all 92 minerals in a perfect ratio. It's basically seawater taken during a plankton bloom and then purified.
Okay, so is it like isotonic seawater? Is that what it is?
Yeah, but it's super concentrated and super pure, and there's a lot of phonies out there. I would only go with the real Quinton.
The real Quinton. Is that something you would use with a hypodermic needle and inject it?
No, you can drink it.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I know there are people that do inject isotonic seawater.
So if you think about how dehydrated all of us are just because of our lifestyles, the Quinton allows us to drink maybe 30% less water because now it makes the water sticky.
Oh.
It also creates a terrain issue in the gut where all of those minerals and needs are met, right? Because a lot of times obesity can come from someone who needs that extra magnesium or that extra zinc from the diet. And they're literally eating thousands of calories to get that tiny little magnesium molecule because the brain knows exactly what we need. So when you give the body what it needs in an overflow fashion, like Quinton and the BioAge algae, which we'll get into in a minute, now you're creating a garden situation that is robust and adaptable to different kinds of foods. And remember, if we're going to be an athlete, our muscles have to draw upon whatever is stored in our belly for reserves. So if you can build up those mineral reserves like that, no more cramping, no more kidney problems.
Right.
Dehydrated skin, wrinkled skin can all come from dehydration.
So let's just jump into that algae. What do you want to share about that?
So this was introduced to me by my mentor, Dr. Roland Thomas, about 25 years ago, and it's a product that I've been on the longest. Each capsule is equal to 10 pounds of spinach or broccoli.
That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, think about now you can cut down on the totality of your food by 20 or 30%.
Mm-hmm.
Give your digestive system a break, which is an anti-aging biohack, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was brought to Chernobyl after the reactors blew up, and it was the only food that some of the folks could eat that wasn't irradiated.
Oh, okay.
And it literally saved tens of thousands of lives from leukemia and radiation burns. And
Right. I've heard this commercial on Jeff Rentz's program.
yeah, Jeff and Roland are good buddies.
Right. Yeah. So you vouch for it. You think it's good stuff.
Oh, it's the best multivitamin, multimineral out there. In fact, we've had it in the laboratory under Curly in photography, and you can actually watch the lightning bolts come off of the capsule.
Right.
Where if you put a Centrum or 1 a day plus iron, it's black and dead and worthless. Right.
So if people want to just like kind of jump in quick and get something that would, really make a fundamental difference. So maybe the algae and what the quinton, the seawater.
Yeah, if you're looking at
foundation.
If you're looking at severe digestive problems, the algae and the quinton are an excellent place to begin, along with the carbon.
Right, and the gut and the terrain is so important. It's like,
everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. It's what, our gut is the size of an American football field.
Yeah.
As far as surface area. So think about that. If you're rotten from the 20-yard line to the end zone, you're in trouble, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're basically growing a garden in there. That's all we need to think about when we're eating. Everyone has the newest and best nutritional information, which changes weekly.
Good place to start.
The best thing you can do is grow that garden.
Got somebody in the chat room who is a truck driver, drives 50 to 70 hours a week. That has its own challenges in terms of lifestyle, sleep cycle, fatigue, also exercise. Is there anything that you could suggest for somebody that got that kind of profession that they've got to kind of, deal with and try to stay healthy?
Well, the pulsed harmonics device that I showed up here, the white one. We have a car attachment for this. So he could literally be treating with the mat every time he's driving. He could treat his low back, upper back, hamstrings, quads. He could use it in place of stimulants to stay awake. And if he just did the algae and the quinton, he'd be much farther ahead, because I know it's very difficult as a truck driver to eat well.
Yeah.
And if he bought a nice cooler and started really getting on top of his nutritional choices and bringing them with him,
right,
learning how to snack healthy and be a grazer,
right,
rather than getting all hungry and waiting for that big bacon burger at the end of the night,
right. Yeah. Those are good
also for him, exercise wise,
yes,
whole body vibration therapy is a way to get a 2-hour workout in 20 minutes.
So just have one of those in the truck, bring it into the hotel room or whatever if you stay there, and plug it in. Or
well, it's not really portable, but if he could find it and do it once or twice a week, he'd be that much farther ahead of the game.
Okay. All right. Those are good suggestions. Let me see. Anybody else have anything else in the chat room that you want to ask Glenn about while we've got the man on the hotline here? Let's see. This stuff is awesome. Okay, so the question is, do you make it affordable for the average Joe or Jane? Well, we just talked about kind of an entry level sort of solution with the algae and the quinton. What else do you think people could sort of begin to experience what you're experiencing without taking a big chunk out of their budget?
Right, we get this a lot, certainly. And so what we've endeavored to do is have maybe a bronze, silver, and gold level on the website in terms of 2 or 3 different tiers of products that can get the job done. Like I said, with the silver, for example. Unfortunately, that's not easy with the carbon, because the manufacturing costs of the can of carbon are brutal right now.
Right.
But that will be coming down as economies of scale improve. And people need to think about the most bang for the buck and how they spend their money, obviously. And I hear this over and over again. I just spent $100,000 and I haven't gone anywhere with my health, right?
Yeah.
Well, I tell everyone, if you just did carbon 60 and PEMF, you'd be 80% ahead of the game.
And the PEMF is, it's a one-time, investment. Once you got it, you got it. It's going to be your friend for a very long time, right?
Right. And Avazia makes a new one on our website. I think it's $1,300 now out the door for a nice little PEMF mat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's any PEMF is better than none because we're all deficient.
Right. Right. $1,300. I mean, for some, that's kind of like getting close to a very good dinner now. Yeah, if you go to French Laundry, that you're going to pay that for the dinner at French Laundry. It's happened easily. Let me see if there's any other questions here in the chat room. We have. Let's see. Joe asks about wheatgrass juice. The old wheatgrass juice. What do you think of wheatgrass juice?
It's a complete waste of time because we don't have the enzymes to assimilate it properly.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Nice. If you look at it in the laboratory, it's got tons of nutrients, but if you can't absorb them,
it's a waste of money. Right?
The algae is far, far superior to wheatgrass.
So along these lines, what are some of the traditional kinds of supplements or vitamins or things that people generally think are good and take, but they really should reconsider it? Anything pop up?
Oh, yeah. Especially calcium. People need to be very, very careful where they get their calcium from. The best source is the quinton and the algae, of course. But then people need to do research on which ones would be more valuable for them. And, certainly some people are calcium deficient, but to just be taking one daily consistently is from like the supermarket, it's not a good idea.
There seems to be a couple of different thoughts about fermentation. There are some people who think fermentation is really, really good. And there are other people who think that fermentation is not so good. Like I've read the both sides on or arguments for like apple cider vinegar, both the pro and the con for apple cider vinegar. I've read both the pro and the con for things like kombucha. What's your thoughts on the fermented substances?
That's an excellent question. Number one, people should do their homework on Paul Stamets and his relationship with Bayer Pharmaceuticals when it comes to kombucha. They were going to actually patent it and make a cancer cure out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, though, is kombucha is not meant to be taken on a daily basis. It's only meant to be taken as a medicine or sipped upon. It's not meant to drink 32 ounces in a sitting. Plus, it makes the gut too yin.
Mm-hmm.
So if your stomach is a furnace, why would you throw water on your furnace before you ate? Right?
You would be able to digest.
No. So kombucha is great, but not as a daily driver and not during food, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, people really should get good with muscle testing, the ring test or pendulum, and find out how it sits with them. There was a time when apple cider vinegar changed my life, but now I can't stomach it.
Yeah, isn't it interesting?
So it's just not for me now because the gut biome changes by the hour, right?
Right.
But that being said, fermenteds can heal people, like classic German sauerkraut made only with water and salt, no vinegar, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Proper kombuchas. These are really powerful. Really powerful. But I would avoid most probiotics, just so you know, because they're made from cow enzymes, which are not assimilable. Okay. And it's like a blind man drunk in a bar trying to shoot darts backwards. If you're trying to guess which probiotic that Jane Doe needs tomorrow, right?
Yeah, interesting. Are there any probiotics worth taking, or just avoid them?
No. There's one called Saccharomyces boulardii.
Mm-hmm.
I'll spell it SACHROMYCES space BOULARDI.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually an algae or fungal mold yeast. That's a positive probiotic.
Right.
That would be the only one that we would recommend.
Okay. Good.
Also, colon therapy, very, very important for gut health.
And what do you suggest for colon therapy?
You need to see a professional. You're not going to get the results you need at home with an enema. But we've seen people turn around from everything from that.
What about colonics? What do you think of colonics?
No, that's what I'm referring to.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We work with happybelly.com if you want to contact her.
I think colonics are pretty amazing, to be honest with you.
They can change your life.
Yeah.
People with Crohn's, IBS, irritable bowel, they need to be doing this consistently.
Yeah.
To get that football field hydrated again, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is great stuff, Glenn. This is all you can find out all about, Glenn's services and his products over on his website, which I have linked to 3 times in the chat. I'll put it up there again after the show. It's energymedfit.com. One of the things that you and I talked about was some interesting hacks for preparing for any kind of a disaster, whether it's ecological, economical, EMF pulse, whatever is going to happen. There's some things that you can do to kind of hedge your bets for your health in case a disaster crosses your path. What are some of those things?
We've been working a lot on prepper medicine for the last 10 years because, it's one thing to have all the basics like protection, food, water, but we really need to look deep into the first aid kit. It's not enough to have a few gauze and some mercurochrome, right? We can do better. So everyone should at least have some type of natural antibiotic, whether it's the nanoxide or the silver mountain, cases of it. Because you can use it for water purification. You can use it to wash food that you're not sure of. We need to think about a grid down scenario where the ERs are just completely overwhelmed, right?
Right.
And all of us can sense that something big is going to happen and that we're overpopulated with people who don't resonate with us. And, all of the political unrest between the left and the right, they may come some kind of climactic moment. So, so the Silver Waters, a product called Celox, which we don't carry, but you can buy it online, CELOX. This will close a gigantic wound almost instantly.
Okay.
Very important. Very important to have the BioAge algae around because the food supply quality is going to drop dramatically. So now you can use that as an adjunct for your vitamins and minerals and not end up getting sick having to eat MREs for the next 3 months, right?
Right. So those are 3 basic things that people can kind of
that's a good place to start. And if you have the resources, a PEMF device, I mean, who knows when someone's going to sprain an ankle or twist a shoulder or hurt a back, right? To have these things around, we basically have become our own triage unit at home, and that's very empowering. Who wants to sit in the ER for 4 hours and pay $1,400 for someone to look in your mouth? It's becoming absurd.
Yeah.
I had a friend who had to pay $580 for an X-ray the other day.
It's crazy. So this also gets back to what we were talking about earlier, which is taking care of yourself, being disciplined, making sure that if something did happen, that the odds of you being able to not just survive, but even be able to thrive in that kind of environment are in your favor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the things that I've read and heard from my mentors who are in the military and what have you is if you don't have to leave your house, your odds of enjoying the experience go up 90+%.
Yeah.
As soon as you have to leave the house because you need that item, you could be in big trouble.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
So start putting it in the home now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take one more quick scan of the chat room and see if we have any more questions or comments that you guys have for Glenn before we sign off today. Let's see what we got. Many sheep in your stable. I guess that's one of the hacks. Maybe. I don't know. Chris and Steve, so looking forward to meeting Glenn in Texas. Thank you so much.
Oh, I love Chris and Steve. They're brilliant.
They're the best. Let's see.
Before I forget, I just want to say one thing before I forget, and we didn't get to it, is the next 3 to 5 years are going to be massive breakthroughs in anti-aging. So people need to hang in there. And, we're already very far along the way on Energy MedFit, but imagine something that's going to give us 20 more years quite easily. It could be the carbon 60. We just don't have enough data yet, but they're just working hard on it. And it's a really exciting time from a health standpoint.
Yeah, I'd agree.
We can overcome almost everything.
Yeah. You and I had this conversation, I think, early on, maybe our first conversation. One of the things that, has come to my attention is that here I am, I'm getting ready to I'll be 59 this year, right? And it's kind of like everything's starting to come together. Like I'm starting to figure stuff out. I'm starting to sort of, tune down some of my angst. And so I'm getting to this point where it's like things are really starting to make sense. And it almost feels like we either have to accelerate the curve so we get there quicker and we have more runway after that, or when we get to this point, we've got to figure out a way to get a little more runway after this, because this is where life can get really good. When you deprogram, deal with the trauma, work with the habituations, and now all of a sudden you're online. This is where we need to get maximal amounts of manifestation time. So I'm thinking that maybe some of these anti-aging technologies are going to be right on time for those of us who are waking up, so we can take advantage of this.
Sure. Who wants to get their shit together and then only have 10 years to enjoy it, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And checkers on the porch is not a great way to sail out in my world. I want to do it on a boat or a motorcycle.
Something. It's a bit more of a statement than that. Got one more question. Finka, aka Lynn, is asking, do you suggest silver every day?
Certain silvers can actually create an argyria problem where, blue man.
Yeah.
You can pull them up on YouTube and laugh.
I've seen them, yeah.
But ours won't do that. So it is important. If you get the right silver, yes, it is safe to take every day, and it's prophylactic against this toxicity matrix. Mm-hmm. If you could see the infectious agents that I see show up in people in these scans every day, it's a bit heartbreaking.
Horror show, huh?
They're just new stuff all the time, like prions. People can look that up.
Oh my God, prions, man.
Morgellons disease, mycoplasma, right?
Yeah, macrophages, all that stuff.
So do yourself a favor and take some type of safe natural antipathogen, whether it's our silver or grapefruit seed extract or turpentine.
Ben asks, if there's one supplement to take regularly for health maintenance, what would you recommend?
It would be a tough call between the BioAge and the Carbon 60.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is a reductionist philosophy, the carbon, and the other is a holistic philosophy, the algae.
Yep. Okay.
Both, if you can afford it.
There you go, Ben.
And just another thing about those, I know they're expensive, but you know what? If you have one supplement that replaces 1,000 other things that you don't need to take anymore, mm-hmm. It's actually a bargain.
Yeah, absolutely. So Glenn is going to be at the Harvest Moon Hill Country event here in Texas, and you're going to bring some of this technology, right? And you're going to demo it. People get to try it out, all this stuff, right?
We'll have a blast. Yeah. We'll have basically a engaged situation where people can try out stuff, and I'll actually be there to work on them. That's part of why I'm coming.
Good. Excellent.
So if anybody has orthopedic pains or disease states, we can take a look and see what we can do.
So you can book with Glenn while you're there and be part of that whole.
I will have the HRV and the new vision with me too, so we can do those scans.
Harvest Moon is October 13th. Actually, it's the 11th, 12th, and 13th in Fredericksburg. And let me just real quick, since I've got everybody online here, let me just go to the website and grab the link for the event so I can put it in there. And the only change is that Joan Sefcik is going to be there, and Heather is having a bit of a schedule issue, and she may or may not come. But so Joan will be there. Heather may not be there, but if Heather does come there, of course, we welcome her. So let's do this. Let me just hold on one second here. Throw this in there. So Glenn, while I'm typing, maybe you can tell people where you are again in Boulder if they want to come visit you.
goldenbiohack.com. And my business partners, Ryan and Jessica Brassel.
Okay.
Brilliant facility. So especially things that we don't have, or I didn't have in Boulder, are a lot of these brain testing technologies. So if you know people with emotional problems, head trauma, depression, we can really scan the brain even more specifically than New Vision can. Mm-hmm. Very powerful to get people back on track, get them motivated. Also for sports performance and optimization of power, strength, will, motivation.
Right.
We can modify the brain very safely. bring things back.
So one of the things that I brought to the surface on yesterday's show was this whole concept of demoralization from a social level, and how we've been subjected to a very intense and focused, but yet broadcast in a fairly wide spectrum mind control program to break down our will, to break down our self-esteem, to break down our ability to relate to others, to be in groups that are really healthy and important for our own social development. Our relationship with our culture and our country and God and the universe. There's been a concerted effort to attack us and to break it down so that we become dysfunctional people, cynical, and on the fringe of society, outcasts, as it were. But what we're doing now is we are remembering who we are. And the remembering process starts directly with your own body, to remember who you are on a physical level, to bring all those pieces back together so that you can have a healthy relationship with yourself and to begin to have a healthy relationship with other people. So this is an antidote to the demoralization process. We are remoralizing ourselves. And it doesn't have anything to do with some kind of religious dogma or ethic. It's living within the truth, within our own lives, our biological truth, our spiritual truth. And when we do that, and we strengthen our own immunity, and each and every one of us does that, then we're stronger together. So this is some great stuff that you guys can use. Tools at your disposal. And Glenn is really available, and I'm sure you can ask him questions or reach out to him. I'm excited, and this is a time for us where we cannot get down. We have to keep our spirits up, and the way to keep our spirits up is by keeping our bodies up.
Amen, brother. We do have a renaissance very close, if it's not started already.
Yeah.
And communism has failed every time it's been tried, and we're part of Bolshevik 2.0 right now, and it's time for the commies to lose because they hate everything that's beautiful about humanity.
That's right. Absolutely. And the first thing you want to do, you want to fall back in love with your body. You want to take care of that gut. You want to take care of everything that you've got so you can be optimal. That's the front lines of our resistance. So
that's right.
And I'm not going to tell you anything that I'm not working on in my own life. So Glenn, thank you so much for bringing your knowledge to our show today.
It's been great, Robert. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll come back again sometime. Come see Glenn in October down here in Texas. So unless we have any other questions or anything else from Chatlandia, I think we're going to call it a day. All right. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to step when it's possible. I'd like to thank my guest again, Glenn Streeter, and you can find him over at his websites, there are plenty of links in the chat box. And have yourself a great weekend, and bye for now.